Welcome to Family Remission Podcast. This is Ashley Tilford, and today we're going to be talking about grace filled discipline that works. So many times we struggle with discipline and teaching and training our kids how to behave correctly. It's a lot about behavior management, it's a lot about teaching kids the right way to behave. But we also have to kind of peel back those layers and identify why are we concerned about their behavior in this situation. Discipline is more than just about behavior management. Discipline is about teaching, training, growing, and developing your child to be a follower of Christ and what that looks like. And so when we talk about grace filled discipline, grace is essentially the free and unmerited favor of God as manifested in the salvation of sinners and the bestowal of blessings. That means that we are still disciplining our children through the lens of love, through the lens of blessing and favor and honor. So, what does that look like? So when we focus on grace-filled discipline, we're focused on their heart. And when I talk about this in my heart-centered parenting cohort, which is available on my website at ashleytilford.com, we talk about how to focus on the heart of your child. This is how God parents us, is that he cares about our heart. And so he will do anything to get us to address our heart, acknowledge our heart, but the sole focus around that is to connect with us and our heart. And so, heart centered parenting is about realizing that your child is a person. And this was revolutionary for me to think about my child as a person, as somebody who has their own mind, will, and emotion, not a little robot that I could control, but that they had opinions and concerns and were just their own little people. I never thought about kids that way. From my perspective, growing up in a household, just the two of us, me and my younger brother, he did whatever I wanted him to do. And then I became a teacher and got my master's in elementary education, and these kids did everything I wanted them to do. So it wasn't until I had kids of my own that I realized that they were little people. They were little human beings that God created, and he cared about them and cared about their heart. And that was transformational for me in my parenting. Because now it wasn't about do this because I told you so. It was about do this because it's what's best for you. And so we have to look at the heart of our discipline. Why are we wanting them to make that choice? If it is, the rule is don't go play in the highway, well, that is for their safety, obviously, because if they go play in the highway, they could get hit by a car and they could die. But if our discipline is don't wear that shirt today, why? Are you afraid of what other people will think of you as a parent if your child wore that shirt? But what if it is about their creativity and how they're feeling that day, and that shirt gives them confidence, it gives them strength. We have to understand, why are we parenting? Why are we disciplining? What is the motivation behind the discipline? Is it truly to protect them? Is it truly to teach them some morality? Or is it because we want things a certain way because we're afraid of what others would think? We're afraid of how that would look on our parenting, or we're afraid about how they're going to turn out and what that might do to our reputation. So, grace filled parenting and discipline is about that unmerited favor of God. That when we discipline, we're not doing it because we're angry at them. And if you are disciplining because you are angry, then it is time to peel back the layers of your heart and do some emotional healing. Because if you're parenting and disciplining out of anger, you are only inciting rebellion in your kid. They can see right through your anger. And they know that when you're angry and you're disciplining them, it's not, they will internalize it and say, she doesn't love me. And that is not how our Father disciplines us. He disciplines us out of his unfailing love, his unconditional love. But it is when we discipline from a heart of fear, frustration, anger, worry, that we instill the lies within our kids that they are not loved, that they are wrong. And this creates shame. And so when we separate out our emotions from the discipline and how we're feeling or what we're thinking and look at it from the perspective of, why am I disciplining you? But you could say, but my kid has such bad behavior. I will tell you 100% it is because they are missing heart connection with you. They love you so much and they just want all your time. So I would encourage you to put down your phone. I would encourage you to stop doing 45 activities a day. I would encourage you to take the time to sit with your little one, to sit with your kid, to sit with your teen, and to have a true heart connection with them, to sit and listen to the thing that they care about, that they want to talk about. You say, my kid won't talk to me. Are you the parent and they're the child? Have you been reacting to their behaviors from a place that is angry or vulnerable or in pain? Because if you have, then they've been bearing the weight of your emotional instability that they were never designed to bear. And a lot of that is rooted from our examples of parent. Our parents aren't very good examples of emotional stability. And so when we begin to parent from that place of emotional stability, that what you do, the child, what the child does is not a reflection of me as a bad parent. What the child does is a reflection of what the child needs. And so I can partner with the Holy Spirit, ask the Holy Spirit, what does this child need? And make that heart connection with that child. That does not mitigate what the child is doing. I can deal with that later. But if you're in the middle of a problem that needs to be disciplined and your child is in an emotional high and you're trying to be at an emotional high too, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You've got to step back from your emotions, step back from the child's emotions, and see the child for who they are, which is a person created in the image of Christ, a person created in the image of God, who has needs, who has wants, who has desires, who has opinions, and is not feeling heard. And so I know this is radically different from a lot of the parenting advice out there. I grew up in a home where you did what I said because I told you, and if you don't, you get a spanking. And if you don't behave the way I want you to, then you get punishment. And I'm not saying that punishment is not necessary, but what I'm saying is that we have to have grace for our kids and remove ourselves from their emotions to make that true heart connection. Because without it, they will begin to see themselves in a shame based mentality. I am wrong. I am unloved. I am unaccepted. And so it is our responsibility as the parent to come alongside them, let them know that they're unconditionally loved, even when they mess up, even when they make a bad choice, even when they yell and scream at you, you still love them. And you, as the parent, have to decide in your heart of hearts, if you do you really love your kid even when they're screaming at you? Do you really love your kid even when they embarrass you? Because if you don't, that's a whole nother thing to work on. But if you've never thought about it that way, then that now it's time for you to separate out your emotions, separate out what you desire from your kid, and be the parent. Be the one who is emotionally stable, who can take all that flack, who can take all that frustration and sit down and say, how can we connect? What do you need? So this is grace-filled discipline that works. when we're talking about grace-filled discipline and creating a heart connection, the other side of that is giving our children choices. I grew up in a home that was focused on control, and control incites rebellion, but choices bring connection because life is full of choices. Everything is a choice. And when we start giving our children choices, then they feel as though they're in a little bit more control of the situation. Now, you as the parent may struggle with that because you don't want them to have any control. But when you realize that choices are not about lacking control, but they are about the heart connection and making the child feel as though they are heard, loved, and seen, then that changes the game. Now it's not about forcing you to do what I want you to do, but it is about allowing you to wrestle with the right choice. Because in life, we are given choices all the time. And if when your child graduates high school, they've never been given choices, they've only been told what to do, what kind of choices do you think that they're going to make? Some people will freeze and won't know what to do. And some will make all the wrong choices because they've always been told what right choice to make. And so this is another training tool, teaching and training way to discipline by giving choices. Now, part of it means that you have to be okay with your child making the wrong choice. And that's hard as parents. It was hard for me. I'm not very good at the choices thing. My husband is way better at it than I am. But when we start to practice it and train ourselves to give choices instead of control, it becomes a lot easier. It becomes like a muscle that we are practicing and using and can do a lot quicker. So my youngest daughter, she was 2, and we found this heart-centered parenting idea, which is from Danny Silk and his Loving Your Kids on Purpose and Giving Them Choices. It was revolutionary for our parenting. And our youngest she is very stubborn and she knows it. And when she was 2, if you told her to do something, she would do the exact opposite every single time. And it was so frustrating because my first 2 were very obedient. But I wanted to parent in a more loving way because I'm pretty sure that it broke both my older 2 spirits when they were really young, out of control. So I knew I wanted to do things different, but she did not make it easy on me. And so we would start with, it's time for a nap. She would say no. And I'm like, well, that no is not a choice, but you can either walk upstairs or I will carry me. And so we would start by giving little choices. Do you want to turn on your fan or do you want me to? I do it. Do you want me to put you in bed or do you want to do it? I do it. And before she knows it, she's in bed laying down. When we start to give our children choices, it gives them some measure of control that helps them to move forward. That's the goal, right? Is we can't be at a stalemate where I'm telling you to do something and you're refusing to do it. That's where tempers flare, people get angry, frustration happens, crying happens, spanking happens, moving on, right? We don't want that. We want grace filled discipline that is filled with grace, that is filled with love, because that is what helps develop, teach, and train our children the way a father is not controlling in his discipline for us. Sometimes it does not feel good, but he allows us to make those choices. Just like when he put the tree in the garden, he could have easily not even put the tree in the garden for Adam and Eve, knowing that they were going to eat the fruit. But he allows us to make choices. He allows us to make mistakes because his character, his nature doesn't change by what we do or don't do. So when we start to see ourselves that way, we start to see our kids that way, it gives us freedom to say, okay, well, you can make the mistake. It's going to have this consequence, but okay, that's your choice, right? And that allows them to develop their ability to make choices and to try new things and fail at things. And so when our identity is not tied to our child's behavior, that completely changes things as well. So, what about bigger kids, teenagers? If they refuse to talk to you, if they are disrespectful, if they are rude, where do you think they learned that from? Most of the time, it's from their parents because that's how they've felt you have treated them. So, there may be places where you need to apologize, you need to work through some forgiveness, you need to try to restore the heart connection, but it also could be from a position of you allowing them to make bad choices. Do you still love your teenager when they make bad choices? And what kind of consequences are you willing to live with when they make those bad choices? If you've already thought out a plan, if you've already thought out the process about the choice, then that gives you freedom to love them in either way because you've already worked through that their choices do not affect you in regards to your identity. So this is graceful discipline that works. Allowing your kids to make choices, focusing on the heart connection, and dealing with your own emotional healing and removing your identity from your child's behavior will create discipline that works. If you're interested in learning more, you can check out my Heart Centered Parenting course available on my website. Also have some free printables that will give you the steps that you need to work through forgiveness and reconciliation and things like that. So if you're interested in that, check out my website at ashleytilford.com.